5, Sugar Victor calling CQDX.
Alright, it's Eric, N5EST, and today we're going to build what's called a mighty Woof or Woof, created by a guy, Whiskey Bravo Zero Tango Golf X-Ray. Apparently it's based off of an old antenna that Hiram Percy Maxim created years and years ago. They call it a fan dipole for VHF, UHF, and it's made entirely out of copper tubing for the most part. So we'll go over what you need equipment-wise or supplies-wise, not equipment-wise first. You'll need about 53 inches of copper tubing. You need 1/2 inch. Nothing special about it, just standard 1/2 inch copper tubing. The other important part is we have some copper fittings, but first you do need a 1/2 inch T. Make sure it's CPVC or hot water, not PVC, which is for cold water. Cold water is a little bit bigger on the ID, and that 1/2 inch will not fit inside of it. Hot water ID fits up with copper pipe perfectly. CPVC, you're also going to need 2 1/2 inch copper T's, which is right here. You need 2 elbows or 90-degree angles, that 1/2 inch as well. And you'll need 4 1/2 inch copper caps. Hopefully it's back in stock again. I had a lot of trouble finding all this because of the freeze, but it should be good to go by now. You'll also need coax of your choice, whatever works best for your situation, because we'll have to hook it up. It's a dipole, and when we get there, we'll show you have to actually hook it up on either side of it. You will need wire strippers. You're going to need some sort of soldering iron. I like butane ones. You can use electric, it doesn't really matter. You'll also need a propane torch if you're going to sweat it. Sweating is where you solder the copper together. In the directions they mentioned using epoxy, so you could possibly glue it together. I don't think it really matters in this instance if you sweat it or not, because you're not really trying to flow water in it, so it doesn't matter. You just need it to hold together. If you're going to sweat it, or if you don't know how to sweat copper pipe, this is not an instructional video on how to sweat copper pipe. I know how to do it properly, but we're not trying to flow water through here, so it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to sand it, I'm not going to flux it, we're just going to put it together and solder it. That's not the right way to do it, guys. This ain't a plumbing video, so please don't do plumbing work based off of my sweating here. And you also need someone to cut the copper pipe, right here. So cutter is how you cut it into the pieces. And that should be everything tool-wise. I'll make sure I'm not leaving everything out. Oh, equipment, to go back a little bit, you will need some type of screws. Self-tapping or machine pin head screws or sheet metal screws. You'll need those to attach the copper into the CPVC T, and also something to attach each leg of your coax to, or each part of your coax to each leg of the antenna. We're going to start cutting and measuring. The way they did the measurements on here is a little strange to me. They actually don't tell you how long each element is. They give you so how to cut the elements individually, I guess I should say. They give you the measurements after it's been fitted into the fitting. That's a little strange to me. So for the one leg of the 2 meter element, one of the 2 meter elements, I guess you should say, is 16.5 inches, and we're going to measure from the back side of the T. So we'll come down and 16.5. And I don't have a Sharpie, so I'm just going to scribe it. Luckily copper is easily done. Okay, got me a mark. And we'll cut that. Just a little scratch. If you've never used tubing cutters like this, you obviously don't want to clamp it down real tight. You'll kind of put it into the rollers and you'll run it around once or twice, lightly, gradually getting tighter and tighter. But you don't want to go too loose because then it'll kind of corkscrew up and you'll kind of thread it in sorts. And we're cutting. Okay, so this is one section. We're going to cut one whole side of the antenna first, and then we'll come back and we'll just measure these, and then we'll cut them over again. So then the next half, the other half of the element that we need to cut is for the 440. And from the back side of that to the front side is 8 3/4 inches. So how to fit this one, we're going to do the 440 side of it now, or one side of it, and we'll fit the elbow on. And for the measurement on that, from the back side of the elbow to the front is 8 3/4 inches. So we'll measure it. Not horrendous measuring that we're doing here, but it works. Okay. cut it. Clarify the directions real well, that I don't think they do, and I forgot to do in the video, so we're going to have to go back and do this again, is for your elbows where it goes from the T up for your 440 element. You have to actually cut a little stub for it too. And like I said, probably about another 1-inch stub would be more than enough. So just make sure you cut off 2 pieces for it, and you'll see in the assembly what I mean. So cut additional 2 1-inch stubs to go for your elbows for the T. Just to recap again, because it was my mistake, you'll need 4 1-inch stubs. I forgot about it, and like I said, I don't think it's very clear in the direction. So we'll do the 2-meter portion of it first. That one's very simple. Let's get one of your T's. And again, this is not plumbing style sweating, okay? When you do that, you're supposed to flux it and sand it and all kinds of other good stuff. We're not going to do all that because it really doesn't matter. So you'll plug it on there, and the easiest way to do it is just kind of put it in the vise, but don't clamp down too hard. Copper tubing is not very tough. You can just get some solder. This is just rosin core, nothing special about it. 4060. You need a propane torch, and again, if you want to,
right there.
You know, to epoxy this, it probably would work just fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all, I wouldn't think. So when you're sweating copper pipe, you actually will heat up above where you want to go. So we're trying to attach that to that, so you actually will heat up the T. And just go back and forth. You want to heat it evenly. Same as if you're brazing with this oxyacetylene. Just kind of go around and heat it up. It doesn't take too long. Just don't want to turn colors, but kind of heat it up for a second, and then you'll check. And when it gets ready to go, it'll actually just pull itself into it. And it's kind of getting there. And when it starts going, it goes. And it'll pull itself. The solder just gets pulled right in by the heat. There we go. You just kind of heat up a little bit to pull it in. But again, it's not such a big deal with this because we're not, having to make sure it doesn't leak water. So that's going to be one leg of the 2 liter. Put one of the stubs in. You said be careful, it does get hot. And when you heat it up again, this may actually be hot enough that you just keep going. We're putting the top portion on here, which would be for the elbow for the 440 element. And again, I have some ugly soldering skills, but it'll hold. And that's all that matters. Okay. I'm going to take one of the 440 elements and plug it into the top up here. And make sure it's kind of even. It's a little crooked, but it should be fine. I don't think it'll cause too many problems. But I can heat it up and loosen it up and turn it. See, outside of solder, you can just heat up and move it again. This will be the last little joint here that we have to solder on, and you'll just repeat the same steps for the other side. And the one thing we need to do now is, before you move on to the next side, just make sure you put your caps on. The caps are done the exact same way, and I'll continue on. The right side, the left side, this is the left side of it, the right side is done the exact same way. Put your caps on, build that up, and then we'll move on. We'll be back when we attach to the PVC. I put on the end caps here, it doesn't take very long. Okay, that one's done. Sure. And then capture on. You'll have two pieces that look like so, and that's each leg of the dipole. So now you'll take your CPVC fitting, and you can fit it on one side. Make sure you have the T, I don't know what you want to call it, the open side on the bottom here. You're going to line it up and push it all the way down. It'll be kind of a snug fit, maybe a little bit of a loose fit, depends on how clean the solder joint you have. But make sure this is down is the key. Line it up, the 2-meter element, and then you'll drill a small pilot hole with a small screwdriver, because these sheet metal screws, depends on the screw, just go smaller than your screw naturally, of course. You'll drill a hole into the front half. You probably have to put 2 screws, one in the front, one in the back. Take your sheet metal screw, and this will be the front half, so you actually will attach your coax to this, and then you'll just screw it in here, and this will hold it down. You probably have to back it off and you put your coax on there, and there you go. Just attach it to each side, and the antenna's complete, and we'll be back when I actually start attaching the coax. Take your coax for your feed line, and you could put a connector on there if you wanted to, or you can just connect this directly to it. So we're going to connect it directly to it. So you'll skin it back. Be careful not to skin too deep, because you don't want to destroy the shielding right here. The shielding is going to be kind of braided, weaved across the top of the center feed. So just pull it back off of it. Be careful. You'll pull it back off to the side, and then you'll have to cut this insulation off of here. You don't have to cut it all the way back. Just cut it part way. You skin it off, and you'll expose the hard copper in the middle of it. And I'm probably not using technical terms here, so y'all forgive me there. I'm not scared to cut it. Okay, there we go. So skin it back and you expose the bare copper, and you have this. And you can just take the shielding and just twist it up. And we may have to trim it back a little bit, because we have a little bit excess here, but that's not a bad thing. And then next, we'll solder on some ring terminals and attach it to the antenna, and then we'll be done, and then we'll throw it on an analyzer. We installed some ring terminals here on the center feed, and also the insulation, or not the insulation, the shielding on the coax. So we'll sit here, and y'all don't make fun of my soldering. I'm not the greatest at it in the world, but it'll hold. I need to clean my tip off. The heat's not really transferring through here too well. I don't have a sponge
Cold
out
in here too.
Yeah, I don't have a sponge out to clean it off. Wait a minute, let the heat come through. There we go. Okay.
Awesome.
Got that running. Those soldered up, let them cool off. Terminal soldered on, just pick a side, and you're going to put your center feed on it. Center feed, the hard copper, I don't know what it's called, I'm getting tired. To one side, you'll put your shielding to the other, and you're done. This thing, if I understand it correctly for reading the directions, it will do horizontal or vertical polarity. Of course, you're doing FMB vertical, but it will apparently do SSB horizontal as well. I haven't tried it yet. I have one in my attic that I've been using for probably about a month now. As my sole antenna for VHF, UHF, and I don't have any complaints. It's a little weak on simplex, but it's probably because of my attic, because I have full shielding on the inside of the roofing sheathing. But I plan on getting it moved outside here pretty soon, so hopefully the simplex will improve. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope my instructions were not too disjointed and messed up here. If you have any questions, hit us up, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. So the last little step to do before you mount it up, like I said, they suggest putting a dowel rod inside here, and you run along. And the main thing to remember is the feed line has to go perpendicular away from the antenna. Be vertically mounted if you're doing FM, so just like this. You'll come back, you'll need to create an RF choke. You make 5 loops here with your feed line. And that's 3. 4, 5.
Let's get you some zip ties and hold them together. That's it.
CQDX, CQDX, CQDX. This is Whiskey 5, Sugar, Sugar Victor. Whiskey 5, Sugar, Sugar Victor calling CQDX.